Can everybody hear me? Can you all at least put it on the chat that you all can hear me?
We can hear you. At least I can hear you with the lovely halo around your hair.
That is not my background. That is the background which Vivek did for me. So
No,
I'm not a Zoom pro.
it's
And
looking,
okay, so
looking good.
Akila says that they can hear and see us clearly. So
Yes.
I will start first. Um, First of all, while I believe others will also join in, but I will start by saying that I would like to thank all of you for coming to this, because when I set up this call, I did it with many multiple factors in mind. First of all, the person who I'm going to introduce is Dr. Tripathi, and as all of you know, Dr. Tripathi is a person who does things, the way I would put it, does things more than what you can do in 24 hours. So his time is very precious, and he starts his day early. So I didn't want to disrupt his schedule as much as possible. And for those who were cribbing about why 8 o'clock on a Sunday, this thing, people get up in the morning, do their daily exercises, go for a walk and jog, but it is so difficult to hear somebody's inspiring story. Then I have nothing more to say. I rest my case. Anyway, without further ado, because most of you may not have read the book, and that is why I will just read something from the book. So first of all, I have written this book in chronology order of how I evolved and how the angels came in my very challenging environment where I had to fight a lone battle, and the scars are there. So Dr. Pramod Tripathi came in at a time when, if he had not come in, then I might not be here to tell the tale, because my HB1AC was 14.7. And as a person who, I'm not one of those experts whose books I have, or the expert who's sitting in front of me, but I have done enough research on diabetes, and I was treating myself for a very long time till it went out of hand, which all of you will know why it went out of hand, because it is related to stress and not only to genetics or something. So when I was looking for somebody to save me, and this point needs to be noted because I will touch on suicide and depression, but it's not as if, instinctively or intuitively, I want to die. So I did want to live, and I was looking around for somebody to save me. And if any of you know Sujata as Sujata, then you will know that I just speak it as it is. So my book is also, like people have told me, it's like Sujata talking to us over a cup of coffee. So the point I'm trying to make is, I said, will somebody save me? There were not many people who came forward to even suggest who can save me. But at a wedding, somebody did bring up Dr. Tripathi's name. I Googled and researched him. And I found that he makes sense because, as I told you, I'm slightly literate in this diabetes management. And I said, okay, this guy makes sense. I reached out to him. I joined his online program. I went to his TRP. And in TRP, I do not know how many people from the FFD groups are there, but in TRP, as I've put all this in the book, by the way. So whatever I'm saying, I'm just repeating from the book. I had to go on a hunger strike to get this man's attention. Okay. So the doctors there, I told them, they said, please eat your breakfast, because after breakfast we were to leave. And I said, no, I need to meet this man. I've come all the way from Singapore. I've actually signed up to meet him. It's not so much of the, what should I say, the program. So he is always surrounded by people. So I just stood by the door and I just kept at it waiting without eating and drinking. As a diabetic, I went on this fast mode till he gave me time. Now he knows how the system works. So he knew that if he stood and talked to me, I would not get a chance to say my story. So he took me on a long walk in that residential area. And there I told him all my story as briefly as possible I could, but I covered it all. And I asked him a simple question. What is the price for you to be my doctor and save me? So I will leave it for him to later on answer how he found this candidate who spoke like that to him. But anyway, I managed to get him. So whether it is, chasing a prime minister or chasing Dr. Tripathi or chasing a CEO, one of the key things which has made me survive in this journey is my persevering skills. And when I have to meet a person, I can tell you whether it's my angels who help me, universe who helps me, laws of attractive, creative visualizing. You can give any terminology. Nobody can stop me from meeting that person. And that's how I met him. I've been with him for 1.5 years, and he is the person who runs Freedom from Diabetes. This thing. He's an amazing person. And if I keep talking about him, this whole session will go in that. So I think I will stop here
Yeah, I
and now
think
allow him to tell something of Sujata.
sure. Thank you, Sujata, for the historical just kind of hearty connect, the way things have unfolded. And today's entire session is about the book and about your journey. So I think it's
So
apt
volume थोड़ा तेज कर
that
Yeah.
we rest that over there. What I will share as we begin, I would love to share about the book first, okay? Then about you, and then some questions. I think the audience would love to hear more things as we move forward. So, uh, what I found very interesting about the book, and I'm like waiting to just open it up. It's all tech and ready over here. Is from Amazon, US Amazon Reader, and that review I felt was so comprehensive and apt that it captures the essence of you and the book in amazing ways. So all those who are online right now, please, with a nice deep breath in your heart and a smile on your face, just let these words land on you of this reviewer. Okay, you do a very nice review. Once in a while, is what the reviewer says. You're surprised by how honest an author can be. I think that's always been very true for the last 1.5 years that I've known Sujata. The writer has laid her life bare, and I found myself deeply moved by both the deep love she has for her family and dear ones, as well as the deep trauma she has clearly suffered. And more on this, I will be sharing after some time. But when she talks of perseverance, what I find of Sujata is the intensity. Every conversation, every reaching out, not like casual, just done for the sake of doing it. There's a certain sense of intensity involved in it, and it's beautiful that the reader, the reviewer has caught it. The reviewer goes on to say, I would highly recommend this book to anyone who's faced challenges and pain in their lives as a grounding mechanism. The book itself becomes a grounding mechanism and as a way to realize that some challenges, while they may be seeming insurmountable, they can be conquered. So basic truths of life, which always make us win, our basic character, our basic qualities, uh, and it's great to revisit them again and again in different books or different journeys. And here's a masterpiece which has touched somebody's heart, written with a lot of honesty. Would definitely recommend this 5 stars. So you can also read this review on Amazon, and that will connect you to the book beautifully. Uh, my praise for Sujata is also mentioned in the book, which is also very honest share about what I find her to be. And it was something that came very spontaneous when she asked, would you like to write something about me? This really summarizes my, let's say, gift of energetic feeling about Sujata. And Sujata reminds me of that selflessly caring, innately conscientious, super diligent. Okay, so three qualities I was combining: caring, conscientiousness, and diligence. Okay, with some objectives to it. Sujata, who helped the Buddha regain strength before enlightenment. Okay. Wishing her complete expansion and freedom in everything that she so well deserves, despite all the challenges that life brings. So I think it's a beautiful story of super challenges and a super character, uh, kind of conquering those challenges. So without getting much into the nitty gritties, here we go. Zoom, zoom, zoom. I hope it opens up. Yeah, it does. Just put it together, and now is a day of online, whatever launches. So here it is. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. I think Sujata, I did give you a glimpse of it already. Same dress, huh, Sujata? Right?
Yes.
Oh wow, you're ready for it. And I would like to say that the tie I'm wearing is something
Yeah.
that she got for me from Germany, uh, and it has her touch of love in it. So I thought it would be very apt to wear it today. So here it goes. The book is opened up, Sujata, and it's a great landing in this world. May many people benefit uh, by reading it. So what I would love to share now is, I mean, ask in fact now is, because many people wouldn't have read the book, and this video would be there later also for people to view it. Uh, Before we come to some more questions, might as well share your journey a bit, okay? And keep your eyes glued on the camera, which is here. Which is
Look,
right.
I can't do all that. I mean, I'm not a pro at this, and it's
So
very
like,
new to me.
eyes glued
But
on
I
the
will. You just see in the iPad, the camera is on the side.
yeah.
So what do I do?
Just look at the camera right here, okay? And
Yeah.
share
So
your
the
journey.
camera is on the side. Anyway, I'd like, like this say that don't judge a book by its cover. So I will start by saying that this book is not an ordinary book. When I sent the book after I published it, that which was also a journey of mine because, as most people may or may not know, I'm a lone one-man army person. So when challenges come, if there is no support system, I just go and do it on my own. When I decided to write the book, I didn't wait for some publisher to evaluate my manuscript and say. And for that, in my book, I have thanked Amazon because if Amazon wasn't there, then I wouldn't have. Of course, I did go through a traditional publishing company also, and they produce this hardcover book, which is in black and white. But in Amazon, the best part is you can add chapters even after you have published it. So this one, which he has, doesn't have the afterword, which I wrote. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is when I sent it to him, I sent it to also two police officers who've been a part of my journey and one lawyer. And this is what I told all of them. This is not a book that you hold. This is me that you hold in your hands. So whosoever buys the book, I want to say this. You are giving me a space in your house and your heart. So just do remember this. This is not a grammar book. This is not a coffee table book. It takes a lot of courage to relive your traumas and to write it. And some of it never go away. So you see, when what I wrote in the book is like when if I say that most people, if I say that I lost my father at the age of 10, okay, so what does the statement say? It doesn't tell you anything of what happens after the father dies. But that is how my journey has has been and how I've evolved. So I saw my mother, who single-handedly brought up three daughters in an environment where we saw people change overnight. Since my father was in a very senior, he was a senior bureaucrat. So the people who called him sir till yesterday, after he died, decided that the young, beautiful widow could be taken advantage of, or some people thought we could be written off. In the book, if you see, there are pictures of me, not like how you see me now, but there was a time I followed all the Indian traditional systems. I tried to be a good daughter-in-law, a good wife. So at that point of time, I tried to conform to the society standards. And there are pictures of me with the pallu and all, which is totally alien now. When people look at the picture and they look at me and they ask, is that you? I said, yes, that was me. And that is how I evolved. So I have been through all the stages trying to cope with this thing. And why did I write this book is for this reason. We know where there is, when you get married, it's not as if, in dowry or your parents give you a book on how to be the perfect wife or how to be the perfect mother or, any of those things. So I faced those challenges in my marriage. I faced, because I went into a traditional, um, household when I was coming from a very modern and, modern background where we didn't think like those. I mean, we didn't believe in rituals, we didn't believe in so-called norms and all that. We were not taught to be religious, we were taught to be good, kind human beings. That's what my parents taught me. And so I had to go through all that. And when I became a mother, so I will share this because these are some key aspects of the book. So my daughter was born on a lunar eclipse. And in Indian culture, it is said that if the daughter is born on a lunar eclipse, she's actually uh, unlucky for the family or the parents or whatever. So there has to be a ritual conducted by a priest to take off the ill effects. And that was a very traumatic period for me. So you can imagine from a scientific medical point of view, when women after childbirth go through, postpartum depression, here I have to cope with this also. And, uh, you know, it's difficult, but I went through that. But I developed as a mother, you start developing then, because the instinct to do things for your children develops then. You're not taught about it, it comes to you. So when they said that babies have kajal in their eyes, right, when they're born, for quite some time they wanted to do that. I said no, because I gathered courage then, and I said no, because that actually harms the eyes, because I knew that it was only pure lead that you were putting in a baby's eyes. And incidentally, I've put a lot of statistics in my book, and it is true that cause of blindness in India because it is of this practice. So this is what I read from a doctor's book. So it's not that I'm just quoting something. I have, whatever I have quoted, I have actually given proof of that. So I'm just giving an insight that those were the things that I did. Then I progressed. I go on to progression about after my mother brought gave us some sound values. She had told us you have to be financially independent and you have to do a minimum degree. I was not very keen on studying, but I did it due to listening to her, and I'm thankful for it today, because that piece of degree, which is just a simple arts degree, did stand me and still stands me in good stead. Anyway, I went on to my career revolution, where after being a housewife for 12, 13 years, I rebelled and said I need to work. And when I went out to work, I don't know what people do nowadays, because they have lots of degrees, lots of accreditations, and still don't get jobs. Here was a woman who was a housewife, never went and bought vegetables on her own, just landed up and met one guy like this, like I've chased people, right? And I said, you have to give me the job. And I had nothing to show. And I said, just give me the chance. He gave me the chance, and I ended up being a sales executive selling computers with no background in IT. Anyway, I was successful. Then, as life happens, with some people, it clashed with my husband's job, and I had to leave my job. And that point of time, you see, I was upset. But now when I look back, it's like Steve Jobs, you connect the dots. So there is a superpower who's putting your journey in this thing, and that we don't have control always. So just imagine, I was upset, but what if I was there? Life would have been different. I got this break into journalism. Again, I just asked for it, and I got the job. I was not somebody who had done the degree. I just got the job. I learned on the job always. After journalism, I went into anti-counterfeiting. Anti-counterfeiting is definitely a male dominated field, where either lawyers or retired cops get into it. Here was this 5'1" lady who you see, who was conducting raids, talking to ministers, talking to judges, talking to informers, going with police on the raid, doing all that. Now, it would seem, oh, that's a strange, diverse, career graph, but it had its meaning even then. So I'll fast forward to the time when all this came in good stead, because the worst that could happen, okay, I faced job discriminations, I faced challenges. Then I saw my husband who went through his job, this thing descriptions, and how I always wanted to leave India and go abroad. And I finally, when I did, it was through my husband, but it was through again a set of events where his boss wanted him out and used his eye operation convalescing period to tell him, you leave. She called him to the hotel room and said, you leave. And I know how distraught this man was. But I told him, I said, relax. If she had anything concrete, she would have given you a notice. You're supposed to give a notice. Or what about the pink slip? So nothing of that. Then she doesn't have the courage to tell you. She's just trying to prey on your vulnerability. And, I've talked in this book about angels, and I talk of my spiritual meeting with God. So for the skeptics, I will touch on that because these are real things. So what happened was that out of the blue, this lady comes from America, finds him and says, what are you doing here? You need to move out of India. I'm posting you to Singapore. That's how I got freedom from India. And when he came here, look at the irony, he lands up with the male counterpart of the female boss that he had in India, who tells him point blank, I don't want you here. I'm being forced to give you the job. I'll give it to you on the condition that you go to Thailand. So my husband asked me, what do I do on Skype? I said, if he sends you to Timbuktu, say yes, because this is my destiny calling. So poor chap, he agreed, and that's how we came abroad. But you see, how does it happen? That lady came for a month, put my husband in Singapore, and then she went back to America. Now you will say, okay, that could be coincidences and all. So I'll go on to my spiritual side of it. So I have 3 children, and the youngest, when he was 3 years old, he got lost. He went with his father to the bank. He was 3 years old, and his father was doing something in the bank, did not notice that he had let go of the little boy. The little boy at his eye level was watching a pair of trousers, and lost in thoughts, he followed a pair of trousers who he thought was his dad and walked out of the bank. Halfway somewhere down in the middle of nowhere, he realized that that was not his father, who had gone into a house, and he was crying in boy. And there was pin drop silence on that afternoon. There was nobody around. Now just picture the situation and think what could have happened if that time he had got lost. But see what happens. Somebody is looking after. So this maid comes who used to work in a previous house. We had just shifted residence. She finds the boy and she gets the boy to our house. My question to the reader has been, what if he got lost? He could have been anywhere now. He may not have been alive. He could be a beggar. He could be any kind of situation. So your environment makes a lot of difference of how you evolve. That was his first experience, which tells that the angels were looking after, because he started seeing my father in his dreams. My father passed away long back. My children had not ever seen my father. So how does he get up every morning and describe in detail about the car drives? He describes the car also, which was a Fiat car which we had. And he describes the 1 hour or whenever he had this entire conversation with this gentleman. So I, to test out the theory, because there was a face reader who had already told me that this boy would be looked after by somebody from my family who's no longer alive. To test the theory, I got a picture of my father and put it in. When this boy woke up, he said, that's the guy I go for a drive with. Now, if any of you have any explanation, please come up with it later on when I stop, because Dr. Tripathi has a lot of past life experience. He's done Reiki, he's done all kinds of things. So I will want to hear his views on this as to what does he think about it. Anyway, so that is my first experience, that that the angel's always looking after. Fast forward, when he goes to the university, he's an adult, he again gets lost in a foreign country. He has no recollection of how he got into a taxi, and the taxi driver was kind enough to pick up the friends' phone calls which were coming and take this, semi-conscious boy to his friends. Again, so he did not get lost. Now, the worst thing that could have happened in all my challenges was the rape of my daughter. And just before this incident happened, I had gone to this place called Montserrat. It's a pilgrimage kind of a church in Spain. And I had somehow connected with that place, and I had downloaded the choir songs on my laptop. So when I came back, before this incident happened, I found that, it used to play by itself and it used to go off by itself. I would reboot, close, nothing. I couldn't understand what was happening. But in the meantime, this incident happened. And when this started playing up, I said, I need to go. As you know, men don't deal with these things on an emotional level very openly. I mean, women also don't, victims don't, survivors don't, families don't. So you can imagine that my husband had to go to office, pretend everything was this thing, and he's still not been open and talked about it within the family in a heart to heart. Maybe now, yes, but for a long time he did not. So for him, he started, when you are stressed and depressed and all that, your body is tells you about it. So he was having this loose motion for 2 weeks or so, which did not stop. No antibiotics, no medicine, nothing. So when I told my husband, I'm going to go there and say some special prayers, he said, okay, but he was not comfortable me going along. But anyway, I went. So I had befriended a Spanish chef in a place where you would not find a Spanish chef. It was in another country. And he tells me that, do you know, my stepmother sings there. So if you want an appointment, I can do it. I said, no, I've already got the appointment. But he said, go and meet this guy in the monastery. You will like that priest. He's a modern day priest. So you connect with him. I said, fine, no problem. So one of my daughters, the elder one, she does a lot of tarot card reading. And when she does tarot card and angel card reading for me, the angel card reading works because archangels Gabriel, Michael, Raphael always used to come out. So she asked me before I went to the trip, she says, are you going somewhere? And I didn't tell anybody. I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. One of the few times I do lie. So uh, I went there and I went to the chapel at the appointed time. I couldn't find the chapel. So I had to ask somebody. I finally found it. When I went there, it was a 1 o'clock appointment. When I finally went there, the bell started ringing, the choir started happening, and I looked at my watch. It was exactly 1 o'clock. So I just sat and cried. You know what that crying means on a spiritual level when you connect with God. I said, okay, I get it, whether anybody loves me or not. You do. And that is what gave me the courage, I think, to take on a court case of 6 years in a country like India. But when I went to that other priest, guess what? When I told him my story, I ended with the tarot card reading and I felt a little foolish. So I said, maybe you think I'm mad. He says, no, Sujata, it's providence. Would you like to meet your angels? This is the only monastery in Spain where the three angels are depicted pictorially. And so I went and met my angels. When I came back, I could do this court case. We were ostracized in India. Nobody spoke to us. The victim was re-victimized, and I went to court every single day in the same pair of clothes. I used to only wash the clothes on weekend. I suffered from stool incontinence or something, so I had to wear diapers, which nobody knew. But that is how I went. I had to hear the judges talk about my daughter as if, ask questions like, is she a drug addict? Or, what was her sexual life and all. You can only imagine my trauma when I say this. But what I'm trying to say is it takes a lot of courage. And I don't appreciate when people tell me, oh, now it's over and done with, please move on. This is not an accident that you had that you can say, oh, the scar is there and it need not to be taken. When we have diabetes, we don't have that kind of stigma, do we? What's happening?
All good. Continue.
Okay. So then, where was I? Yeah. So I don't appreciate when people tell me to move on, because there are some things you have to live with it. So whether it's diabetes or something or this trauma, you live with it. Only thing is there is no stigma attached to diabetes, but there is a stigma attached to any kind of sexual abuse, rape, or anything. So that is in a nutshell my story. And the reason I've touched on most of the key parts. So when I've been in touch with Dr. Tripathi, like, when the court case was going on, who were my allies who helped me from dying was Mr. Deven Bharti, the cops, the senior cops. I had to be the brave mother, the brave wife, or whatever you call it. So I could only talk to them. I couldn't cry in front of my children. I was stone cold. From a part of me was just focused on getting the job done. And they used to handhold me in the dead of the night when I was suicidal or depressed. The same thing happened because when Dr. Tripathi came in, the case was still going on. It just ended in this June. The verdict came. But anyway, when he was there, he knows that I was this thing. I had told him openly. I have this habit of asking every doctor that if I want to die, will you assist me in dying? Anyway, so he never lost his cool, but he tried the left brain, right brain tactics. He told me how it's not good for my soul, how I should not think about it, and how it might be better in my next life. All that he did. But the fact that he was listening to me when I was so need of support, that saves, because I deal in my social counseling work, which I now do. I deal with people who are who want to commit suicide or something, and I can tell you that if you just listen, sometimes the person, after you have given a hearing, will not want to die. People don't actually want to die. But I'm a pro choice person. If I don't get the right to live in dignity, I have a choice to die with dignity. So I I can go on many parts of this book, but I would like you all to read my book if you really resonate with the trauma. I've touched on key parts, and you all are free to welcome to ask me any kind of questions.
Wonderful share, Sujata. I mean, the word intensity of your life and intensity of the book uh, definitely comes out. And we had planned questions in a certain sequence, but I feel we can shift the sequence based on what you've shared.
Yeah.
And start with the last one, and that is, what are the top three insights you want to share with people? What
What you need to repeat that?
the top three insights,
Yeah.
insights,
Okay, the top three insights.
very different journey, of childhood, luxurious, difficult start in marriage, kid, then shift to career. I mean, starting to moving ahead. Then-
So the top three insights that I have found in my career evolution is, one thing I've realized it, whether Jesus Christ came, whether the Buddha came, whether there are gurus now and all, people don't actually change. People are the same. I did a lot of wastage of time in being who I am. I should have been who I am right from the beginning. But in trying to please people or trying to live a certain kind of an image, I think that I did. So I will always give everybody this advice that the word self confidence and self belief is there for a particular reason. If you have self belief, if your religion is kindness and being human, you will have the right intentions. Then just do, no matter what the challenge is, tell yourself that you can do it. If I could do it amongst so many things, and half of it which I've not even read out and which I expect you all to read, I have watched a crime being committed. I have watched my nephew dying of cancer. I have watched one of the people who I call him as my son, who lost his life in a bike accident just 2 years back. He was one of the person who took the courage to go as a prosecution witness in my daughter's case. We are still grieving over it. The family is my family, and we are still grieving over it. He's left behind a wife and his mother. She she has, I don't know when she recovers, but during the court case, I actually got her here to Singapore because I had to save her life, and I promised the boy. I talked to the boy just as I talked to my mother or my father or anybody. Dr. Tripathi has this thing which he tells us to write, because not everybody enters that program, is write a book journal where you talk of every kind of trauma and everything, you let it out. And one of the thing is write a letter to your mother. And when he read what I was writing, he found it very intense, as he says. Because the sad part is I did a lot for people, and I still do, but I could do nothing for my mother. I couldn't say that I thank you and I loved you so much. So yeah, those are the some takeaways, that you should do what is right and you should have that self-belief, because with the self-belief comes the courage and conviction. It may be a small spark in a dark tunnel, but that is enough sometimes to make you go forward.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So let's say the reader is likely to go through your journey,
Yeah,
and the reader is also likely to get stimulated uh, in his or her own journey, and that relate with certain situations, because different people who go to different kinds of trauma. There are different people who go different levels of depression or suicide. So, what is it in Visage? What is it that the reader is going to go through?
well, the way I have actually done my book,
Happen.
it's like the content is there. So no matter what you're going through, right, whether it is you're in a difficult marriage, or whether you're trying to find your identity, or whether you are there is corporate politics, or whether there is a medical physical ailment that you are, it's lifelong, whether it's dealing with cancer, whether it is dealing with any kind of illness or any kind of bereavement or loss. First thing to accept is, and which I would like to tell Dr. Tripathi, because I don't always get to tell my views on this, because he does so many multiple things. The gurus or the experts should first tell this: being depressed is actually a normal state. If you have lost somebody, or if you don't have food on the table, or if you're sitting in a war zone, can you tell that person to actually be happy? Can you just say, you know close your eyes, meditate, and forget about everything? No, how can you forget about everything? You can close your eyes, I can tell you, but you cannot say that, forget that you don't have the rent to pay or you don't have the food to buy. How can you be happy even if you try to practice it? Yes, what you can do is, you can say, okay, the situation is very bad. What I will suggest to the reader is, take a pen and paper, write down what is your worst case scenario, what is the way forward that you can do. You have any support system? Do you have friends, families? What can you do? Can you reinvent your career? Can you do something you've never done before? And try to be focused. What's the difference of how people go through? Like I said, perseverance. But I'll tell you another thing which makes me, and I mean, my family and a lot of people will say, once Sujata gets into something, she just doesn't leave till she does things. So that's another. What do artists and athletes have in common? Focus. Whether it's a Tom Brady, Roger Federer, you take any athlete and study them, their longevity in career is because of the strict discipline that they do in the daily regime. So you if you're depressed, understand there are hormones inside your body which work, right? Like cortisol is, yeah, responsible for depression. There's another one which you might know, which what is that? Dopamine, the ones which give you good feelings. What's that? um,
Yeah, yeah.
there, so
Serotonin,
there are
endorphins.
mechanisms in your body which work. So when meditation happens, I actually gave a talk. I was invited to give a talk day before yesterday on meditation and work-life balance and all. So I was there with another expert. But this is what I said: meditation also, people don't have the correct always knowledge. There are three types of meditation, which is concentration, mindfulness, and contemplative. You start by small steps, but then you should be consistent. The reason, like my husband also attended Dr. Tripathi's program, okay, and he is free. I am not free. What is the difference? When actually he doesn't have Dr. Tripathi as his doctor, I have. But I'll tell you what is the reason. You can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make the horse drink the water, right? My husband is very, very consistent. Even though he's had a heart attack, he cycles in Singapore at least, I don't know how many kilometers, 80, 90, thrice a week. He walks, he cycles, he does exercises, he eats the same food without deviation. Whether he's depressed or not, there is no binge eating, no nothing. Like I have this problem. even though I've controlled it quite a bit, that, when I'm unhappy, I'm one of those who will go for the chocolate, sweets, and ice cream. But if you stop doing that, your body rejects it. Now, if I eat chocolate ice cream, I feel sick. So I have managed to get over that. But once in a while, when I do try to do that, my son is, the one who's like a background unseen angel, who I've not talked as much as I should. He's the one who tells me, look, he never says, don't eat the chocolate. He knows me, right? So he says, if you have to eat a fruit instead. That will still have some nutrition value rather than the chocolate and ice cream. And that is right. So I might, even though banana may be a forbidden fruit for me, I might have banana or I might have grapes, because even if my sugar will go high, but it won't do the damage that chocolate and ice cream will do, or any kind of comfort food, right? It's only going to make me more sick mentally and physically.
Interesting. Yeah. So
Any questions? Because I have to see these. If you all are putting.
yeah, I mean, we can ask questions, allow people to ask questions.
Yeah, please ask questions.
You covered the defining moments. Uh,
Exactly. I have said so many, and because in this Zoom call there is not enough time. As I told you, of course, if Dr. Tripathi leaves and the participants want to stay back and have a chat with me, I am there. He might leave at a time because he has other things to do. But it was necessary, and he was kind enough to do it, because there's a whole chapter on him up till the very end. I even once in my despairing moments, I said how hard it is to love me. And he just responded and said, you are loved. Of course, he didn't answer when I said, and loved by whom? Then he did not get into it. But the thing is that he, at the right moment, he's there to, give me, you can call it placebo pills or whatever, but I think he's a genuine guy who feels for me. And I've asked him many times, I have this sense, I have my own fears. One is of being abandoned. So I asked him, and he has always said, I'm there. And since he says it in writing, I believe that people who walk the talk will never put it in writing if they don't mean it. So I've said in the book that I don't think he's going to ditch me. So I'm going to hold him to it. But yes, so there are many, many such, angels who I have in the book said. There are friends who came when I was sick in Singapore. There is a friend who wrote the forward. He's also an amazing guy. You should read his forward. The way he has described me, I think that's a very good description of me and who I am and my life. And so there are many people who I have quoted who have been kind enough to say things. And incidentally, yesterday, when I was the greatest testimony to this book is that, if I'm making sense, is that I had a small mini launch yesterday in Singapore in a women's group. And one of the ladies who was there, just as I'm talking just now, she just started crying. She showed her tears, the tissue box, and she wrote some very nice things. She says, people don't have the courage, but to listen to your story also. It was so touching for her that she cried. So if I make a difference in even one person's life as imparting my wisdom, then I think I have done my bit. I cannot change the world, because to change the world, all of us have to practice certain things which we don't practice. Okay, so let's not fool ourselves about it. And you have to consistently do those things. Like in Dr. Tripathi's program, every day his team will, in the groups, say the same thing again and again, because they know that human beings are such that you leave them for a day, they will not do that exercise, they will not eat the right food, and they'll probably not remember to do those things. So it takes a lot of stamina and effort, I think, that you have to do. But at the end of the day, let me tell you this, it's you yourself who has to take the defining moment. Nobody can do it for you. People can support you, can show you the way, but you have to define what is this thing. And I believe there's nothing like being open and taking courage to deal with situations. When you don't do that, when we become silent, then that's when the human civilization loses its humanness, actually. So at the back of my book, I have said that this book, I have called this legal life manual. And I will read from here. Do you live in the jungle with animals? Question mark. Or live in the civilized society? Question mark. If in the latter, this book is for you. Are you a victim or a survivor? Survive and protect yourself from gender discrimination, culture biases, belittling within home, educational to professional workplace, mental, verbal, physical, emotional exploitation, rape, and all kinds of sexual abuse. If you will read my book, whether it is my story or it is what I do, I've covered it everything. There's nothing which I've left out. You talk of suicide, it starts with suicide, where my husband's friend, actually a brilliant guy, committed suicide just because he was not given the due place in society. He was a brilliant guy. You've seen Three Idiots, right? Most of you would have seen that movie Three Idiots. There's that guy who commits suicide who was very, very good, right? He just didn't get what he deserved. It's same like that. He used his engineering, this thing to put his, he took a bucket of water, put his hands in, connected it to the switch, and did that. He came to our place just one day before doing it. And we never realized that this quiet and such a thorough gentleman, I remember him every day, because I always question myself, how did we not see what he was going through, and why didn't we try to save his life? Even now in COVID times, when I say I'm suicidal or depressed, you know what happens? I just to test it out, people disappear. These are people who go to churches, temples, mosques, but you tell them I need help, or you tell them that I'm depressed. Next thing you know, they are nowhere to be seen or heard. So let's not talk that this world is a very caring world. I don't know what civilized means, but I do know that it's a jungle where human animals are worse than the actual animals. So this book is for anybody to get inspired and to know that you can do it and you should do it.
So, Sujata, just a curious question. Are you
I
out?
love curious
Are you,
questions.
are you out now of that suicidal thoughts completely?
Are you out of?
The suicidal thoughts which used to get completely now.
So, my dear Dr. Tripathi, you have evidently not read my book.
This is
In the afterword and in the conclusion, I will just read, then you will get your answer. Okay? So, I say, this is my last words in conclusion, page 371. I don't know how long I live, but I tried and at least keep trying. That is one clue that I have not given my option of committing suicide. I'm still looking for somebody and I planned it. You know, I planned it. So by the way, he's got me to a topic where I should say. So one day I was deciding I should, how to commit suicide, because all the doctors I know, they say they're not going to help me die. I have to go to Switzerland. So I started thinking, then I thought, what if I go to some place, jump off a cliff? That is doable. Nobody's going to look for the tourists. So I actually went to find out a place. And I did share with Dr. Tripathi and one or two people, and my son also knew probably that I'm having these nefarious plans. So I went on this trip to Europe. And guess what? This is where I say that the angels, and so there is one person here mentioned here as a social worker called K. He's a guy who, when he heard my story long before I went on this trip, he said, Sujata, even if you want to die, your angels won't let you die. And it is so true. So when I went to do this Reiki, he knows about it. When I went to do this Reiki, guess what happened? I went on a mission, right? My husband was in India, but somehow he came to know that his wife was missing. Or he comes and he joins me in Europe. So first thing I think, okay, my plans are spoiled, right? Because I can't do it if he's around. But just imagine, there was a purpose behind it. I was not going to die. I was going to save his life. Till now, I always thought I have to be saved. But I realized that time that sitting in a church, it just came to me that I'm here also probably to save lives. So my husband, in a foreign location, he gets a heart attack in the early hours of morning. And I take him to a hospital. We have no insurance. It's a small university town, which we just Googled and found that, okay, interesting place to visit. But do you know, when after his heart attack, when we did research and my son did it, he said this is the top 3 hospital in Germany and top 10 in Europe. Anyway, So I went, took him to the hospital, and I remember, now see, people can think different things when you talk in a certain manner. So I'm telling this doctor at an unearthly hour, I said, you know, he said his husband has had a heart attack. So I said, what will it cost? Somebody could have been shocked if some other person hears and says, what is this wife talking about the cost? So he said, these are his exact words. He says, Madam, at this point of time, I could be doing other things, but I have to save his life. So let me save his life, come back and talk to you. He went, did his stent procedure, came back, and he was so kind. He understood. You know what he said? He says, don't worry, we are not America. We will treat him as a local patient. And they all knew, they sensed that I had money problems, or, it was money was an issue or whatever. We had no insurance. I was very open about it. That is the one hospital which refunded money to us. In all the three, India, Singapore, and Germany, that was one place which was the lowest in cost and the best of hospital. So how did we go there? If he had to have the heart attack, I had to save him, right? So I started thinking a little differently. It's what he calls mind shift. So I shifted and said, no, I'm not always supposed to ask for support. I'm not supposed to always think I need to be saved. Maybe my role, that's why I'm alive, that's why I'm not able to die, is that I have to save other people, or at least help them. If nothing else, in my modest, humble manner, I should at least save them. So maybe whenever I got a challenge, God prepared me for it. Or you have seen this. If I had not done the diverse career, maybe if I was just an ordinary housewife, I may not have the courage to have got justice for my daughter, right? And if I had not gone on this thing, then maybe I would not have saved my husband's life. Who's to say? If he was somewhere else and he had it early hours in the morning, say in a hotel, he was on work or something, he would not have probably reached, right? You know the time taken when a heart patient, because my father died of heart attack when he was 40 years old only. He was a chain smoker. He was misdiagnosed by the doctor that he had gastric trouble and sent home with on his first attack. You know why? Because he drove himself to the hospital. He was that strong. The only vice that he had was he was a chain smoker. That took his life. So you learn from that, and you know that. So I'm aware of what happens when heart attacks can come, go, and how quickly it gets over. So I think I went there not for myself, though I thought I was going there for myself, but actually this purpose in life. If you can tell me it's not, please tell me. Anybody welcome to argue on this point? I'm willing.
Okay. No argument over here. I would say, Sujata, I mean, it's part of a very deep plan. And when we are really challenged a lot, we also supported equally to kind of surmount the challenges. One very interesting question has come from Bond
Yes.
Isaac.
Okay, will you please read out the questions so I can answer them?
Yeah. How would you advise me to discover ability to find fulfillment in life? Find fulfillment, uh, because I have noticed practical difficulties prevent me from starting.
Okay, this is a question for both of us. And there is a question from Akila Prem Kumar where she says, would you still say life is good? Okay, so we have one question which is addressed to both of us. So we'll do that. I'll just answer this to Akila. So I would say like this, there's no such thing as good or bad. Is the environment which you are not in control of certain things. You are in control of certain things, but not everything. So when you are faced with a challenge, you do the best you can. I will not say my life is good or bad, but there's a chapter in my book which is called Blessings. And there is a paragraph where I've written that I'm immensely grateful for what I have. Because day in and day out, especially now in COVID, when people don't have jobs, when people don't have everything, even I don't have. I lost one part of my business. I had to close my shop. I know that my money situation is very bad, but I appreciate that somewhere I am able to get by. That somewhere I'm still sitting in Singapore and I don't have to come to India. It's one thing you asked me, that have I left my suicidal thoughts? If I'm told to go to India, I will commit that suicide either which way, not coming to that country. Now, the second question which has been asked for me, from me and you, first you go.
Okay. A profound question. I'll just repeat once again for the benefit
Yeah.
in. So you may want to just mute yourself because there's
Yes,
noise that
that's
comes.
right.
So Bond is saying, how would you advise me to discover the ability to find the fulfillment in life? Okay. One of the most profound things I found as a statement was from Dr. John D. Martini, and that says that I mean, this is one aspect of many of our lives, and it might resonate very, very deep. It says, your spouse hasn't come in your life to give you happiness. Okay, I repeat, your spouse hasn't come in your life to give you happiness. It's happiness and sadness, it's love and hate, it's kindness and cruelty. Okay, um, it is support and challenge, both to create a sense of fulfillment. Create a sense of fulfillment. So what I've found, let's say in my life and the way it goes, it's a extremely busy life, very, very powerful things keep happening every day, a lot of creativity, a lot of innovation, a lot of blessings flow. At the same time, a lot of challenges also keep coming my way to handle them. And I find that the whole thing is held in a state of equilibrium, as is also said by quantum physics, that the entire universe is hydrogen atom, 75%, which is one plus and one minus charge coming together in a state of equilibrium. So currently, the way the life is born, if you were to look at it from a once the hertz are released, like if you look at the theme is coming back again and again from Sujata's life also, that there are a lot of challenges, a lot of blessings, archangels, solutions, and all that. So even currently your life the way it is, there would be a certain degree of equilibrium somewhere, in terms of you are getting supported from certain sources and you're getting challenged from certain sources. It could be from within the family, it could be from outside the family, it could be from within yourself, and it could be from outside of yourself. So like for example, the day you feel depressive thoughts or you feel like going down, and you reach out or something happens and somebody kind of just picks you up and lifts your spirits up, and the day you feel very egoistic and cocky about yourself, somebody's around the corner to insult you and bring it down. So it's a very profound place that we are already living in as such. I feel it's all about being able to release the hurts. Okay, it's about healing the hurts, and it's about waking up. you know it's about waking up to the truth. So the way one can manage stresses and uh, make big shifts in oneself are, I feel these two things are very, very important. One is healing the hurts, releasing. It could be writing, as Sujata said. It could be talking with somebody. It could be there's something called as whole brain posture where you release, or meditation. uh, you kind of release the hurts. As you start releasing the hurts, there is more wisdom coming in your way, and either through some book, some person, or through some satsang where you spend time together, or in your own silence, there is a waking up that happens. So bond, you may never know that the fulfillment is maybe already around. The support and challenge may be already around for you to see it. And the moment it is realized that okay, it's not ideal the way I want it, there are a lot of practical difficulties and challenges I'm going through, but it may be perfect for me to learn and grow to the next level. Okay, so everything is perfect and everything can be improved. So that's the incremental upward trajectory of movement I keep seeing in my life, many people's life. If one is open to learning, if one is open to shifting, and there are enough number of people who get stuck also at different points of time in life, and then they have their equilibrium at that particular place. So bond and anybody and everybody over here, I would just invite you to just make a list, maybe just on a paper, make a list of things that are supporting you and such as things that are challenging you right now. And you might start seeing things that okay, there is a fulfillment coming already, with happiness and sadness, kindness and cruelty, love and hate, joy and problems, because that's what is churning out the gold outside of out of you. All big documentaries you see, all big leaders you see, everybody will have power stories of problems. Okay, everybody. Oh, this was the big problem, and this is how I emerged as a hero. And it's in fact in psychological literature, research, and many other places it said that the greater the challenges you've gone through, the greater your character is going to get built. And because the innate nature of the human being is to expand, you will be able to surmount that. So fulfillment already exists, is what my understanding is, out of a lot of experiences. One needs to see it, because one tends to react to the negative, and once you keep reacting to the negative, the unhappiness and sadness is when one gets lost. It's that also which is allowing you to become more creative. So instead of being reactive to the negative, can we be, release our hurts to it, become more creative to handling it, and boy oh boy, you might rise up to the next level of challenges and support, to have greater fulfillment and greater fulfillment and greater fulfillment. Just don't search for happiness, just don't search for positivity in fulfillment, look for the negative also in the fulfillment, is what I would tell Bond and everyone over here. And with that, I'll pause. Maybe Sujata, you can go forward. Take it from here. You need to unmute yourself first, Sujata.
You see how new I am to this. So first of all, Bond, I your question is not only profound, but it's quite intriguing to me, because I would like to know what you qualify as fulfillment and what you qualify as an ideal kind of a situation. uh, you might be you might not, you might think that because of your environment or surroundings, but unless I know you and I know in this thing, I can give you an example. If I'm on the right track, I don't know, but if I'm on a certain example mode, there is idealism is defined by society as different philosophers will have different this thing, but a lot of practical people will say idealism doesn't exist as a practical way of life. Okay, but there's nothing wrong in having idealistic thoughts or being ideals, even if society doesn't practice it. In my book I have mentioned that, because I and my son are often uh, you know referred to as being idealists. I think I would prefer to be idealist rather than being cold, calculating, uncaring, and maybe super successful according to society, because success and fulfillment, these are all subjective terms based on who you are, how you are, and what your experiences are, or what your mindset is. So I don't know, like my son, he's self-taught, self-fulfilled, and he doesn't interact with the world at all. People might call him a recluse or whatever, but you if you could get to talk to him, he can talk to you on any subject. He has not gone off the track, he's not come up with anything. How do you define that? And I think he's totally fulfilled. Totally, he is not emotionally dependent on anybody. That doesn't mean he doesn't care. He cares, because he cares a lot for me, he cares a lot for this thing, but he cares on a deeper level for actually what human beings go through. He would like to bring a change in the world, but he knows that he cannot bring the change in the world on his own this thing, because we are not on that level. We don't think on a what should I say, the level of, what is that word, when you have multiply numbers. If you are in the minority, even if you are good, even if you have the right intention, if it's in the minority, the majority might just eat you up. So that is what I would, that is my take on it. I don't know whether I have answered your question or not, but tell me if I made sense, or you can tell whether Dr. Tripathi made sense. So there's a question from BG where she says, what do you think you would have done something differently in your life, were you if you were given a chance to? What I would have done differently is that I wouldn't have wasted my time in trying to please people. I think that's the only thing I can think of, because as you will see, my book, it's not something I chose to do. Everything I landed up in. And so when I landed up, I did it to the best of my ability. And I think that I wouldn't change for anything else. how I did my job, how I fought the court case, how I interact with people, that I'm not going to change. Now I've come to a stage where I've always been saying sorry, saying thank you, and appreciating other people. But some people have told me you need to appreciate yourself, you need to look after yourself, look after your soul, look after yourself. So we are taught that say I love you to myself. It's very difficult to say I love you to myself, but I'm trying to be kinder to myself. Like recently in that afterward, as I write, my friend's father died of Parkinson, and I just met him a few months back. A few months back means before the COVID time, and we talked of death and we talked of his age and all. And when he's gone, his daughter just told me, "Be kind to yourself because I know you loved my dad a lot." So that being kind to yourself is something I'm not very good at, but I think I try to be, and that's what I will try to be. So that's the only thing I would change, I think. I hope it answered your question. People can unmute themselves and speak also. You don't have to put it on the chat.
Chat
I
is
would love to hear the voice also.
so. I just want to summarize a little bit over here, Sujata.
Yeah.
Brings to the table. Sujata, you want to mute yourself once? Sweta brings to the table a combination of business expertise, compassion, and empathy built on a track record of advising corporate offices, government bodies, regulatory agencies, NGOs, direct engagement with members of underserved communities. She has developed a truly unique perspective to self improvement in solving problems of both a business and personal nature. She understands the critical importance of timely, relevant, and empathetic mentorship and is taking the step to make this wisdom available to anyone, everywhere, as needed. Okay, so Sujata, great joy. You've been an entrepreneur, you've been a life mentor, you've been a writer, consultant, journalist, author, investigation, detection, surveillance consultant, brand protection, counterfeiting specialist, podium speaker, so many hats you've worn. And your journey serves as inspiration to those who seek light from the depths of darkness. Okay, losing father at 9 years, 15 years after serving as a housewife, made a remarkable fashion, enjoyed as a career as diverse as many, currently established two companies in Singapore, has interviewed CEOs and public figures and given talks in different parts of the world on topics from consumerism to movement rights. Body of work has been covered by television and print media. Sujata is an embodiment of a fighter with a never say die spirit. So may Sujata's life, her energies, her book illuminate all those who need to be illuminated and benefit from the same. Okay. So thank you, Sujata, for the invitation. I will have to move now. Need to reach somewhere by 9:30, and you may continue the interactions. You'll have to unmute yourself. You may continue the interactions. I think some more. Um,
Yeah, but how do I allow people to unmute? Will somebody tell me?
would like to speak. Raise hands. Them to become panelists. You can't unmute. She's saying you can't unmute. You have to become panelists otherwise.
Why? Because ask all to unmute. I'm pressing that button.
Just see if you
Okay.
can.
If you're going, you go, but I would ask the people to stay on. I do want to unmute and just hear your voices. Please stay on. Just a minute. Vivek.
Bond wants to know how we going to be in touch with uh, things. So you can write to Sujata at your